Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Black Eel Podcast. And we are your hosts, Scott and Mike. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about one trailer that came out for a game, and then we'll talk about the short film for Into the Spider-Verse series. I guess the best way to put it. And then we'll move on to talking about season 5, the final season of X-Men the Animated Series, moving on to the newest episode of X-Men 97. Then talking about the Bad Batch and moving on to Invincible. And as always, we'll be ending with a character spotlight. And this week, it'll be from Mike. So let's get right into it and talk about the short film first, which is The Spider Within. I think we got to see. We don't know. Does this take place at a specific point? Is this kind of just like a film to be like, hey, remember us?
I think it was more of a film to remember us getting more,
Hype for the movie.
more ready for the movie that is been indefinitely delayed. But it's excuse me. I'm not sure what universe it technically is in because it doesn't really match up with any of the two that we've seen so far.
Correct, because we're missing his mother, even though his mother was kind of in it without being in it.
Yeah, and right now that from that trailer, it seems like it's only his dad living in the apartment.
Yes.
And obviously in the two movies, both of them are together.
Or one of them's dead. Well, or dad's dead.
And one of the dad is dead. Yes. So it's very, it's a new universe that's showing a different side of the Spider-Man, and this is actually like a first look of what is going on. Like we never see this how the getting bit by the spider affects them psychologically, and this is the first time we're getting a deep dive into what that's like for them.
Well, I don't think so. Here's my thing on this, and I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I think there's a piece that's missing here. It's not so much that the bite itself messes with them. It's more the fact of like they're dealing with let me phrase that. They're dealing with stuff that's not regular, right? They're dealing with quite literally life or death situations, and then they have to come back home and act like everything's normal.
Yeah.
And I think what makes it more terrifying, in my opinion, is the fact that because of his spider powers, he now is when he freaks out and panics, his spidey senses go haywire.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, absolutely. But I just see it at least for this particular Miles, like he's in his head, like we saw him having a night terror, and
Which terrified me. I'm not gonna lie.
his big fear is the spider coming and getting him. So it's like either like at least for this particular Spider-Man, like he's either afraid of the spiders or just that's how he's portraying it. Like his fear is just taking the shape of a spider that is his basically his whole being at this point.
I was gonna say, if anything, it's more of that. It's like the fear of becoming the spider. Because if
Yeah.
you noticed, once it was his shadow basically, and then all of a sudden turned into a massive spider, which I know is your favorite. So we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Mike's scared of spiders. It's hilarious. Um, but anyway, my point I'm making is it's the fear, as you said, like quite literally, because it's happened to Peter Parker in the past, where you turn into a literal spider, and I think
Mhm.
that's a legitimate fear of his, because I think it's one of those things where it's like they're both very intelligent, like science wise. Like
Mhm.
Miles,
Yep.
Miles might be slightly dumber than Peter Parker, but I would say that's more due to the fact of age than it does
Definitely.
like actual intelligence. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So, in my mind, it would make the most sense that if you were bitten by a radioactive spider, right, and you were given spider powers, a legitimate fear would be that because you have powers like a spider, would you eventually start turning into a spider?
It's fair.
And especially for somebody who's intelligent enough to understand genetics and stuff like that, that it shouldn't be all that hard to go from having the genetics of having the spider abilities to then having the spider appearance.
Hmm.
So all of that kind of combined kind of terrifies him to the point where he just is like, you know what, I need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he goes into huge detail with his dad, obviously, but he goes into detail enough that his dad is kind of like, all right, I'll talk with you. and that's
Yeah,
pretty
and I
much.
mean, at the end of the trailer, or at the end of the short, you see, just going, just talking about his day, talking about his
Yeah.
life,
We're talking
just
about just like feeling like the weight of the world is on him,
yeah,
even though he's not like going into like super detail. He's not like, Dad, I'm Spider Man. No, it's more like, Dad, just like, I'm a teenager and life sucks.
yep,
Like that, because that's the only thing Dad will understand. His dad's not going to understand Spider Man swinging around in his house.
that's for sure. And I'm curious. I mean, even this one, like, is this one a cop, or is this one just like, because we didn't really go into detail on that?
I I think he is, and the reason why I say that is because some of the photos we see of Dad is in his uniform, I believe.
Oh, they were. I don't remember seeing that.
I believe so.
Okay,
Like a, but it was just in, like it's not like I saw the
just
uniform in the house. It
yep,
was in the photos, which
yeah,
is why I'm like just same thing with Mom. Mom wasn't there, but she was in the photos.
yep.
So that's more of what I'm getting at. But overall, I thought it was good. I mean, it was perfect for what it was. It was something
Yeah.
short. It wasn't supposed to. It didn't tease anything, nor was it supposed to. It was
Hmm.
kind of just being like, "Hey, here's something fun.
I'll
Enjoy."
look within, and
Yeah,
just don't give. I mean, maybe we'll get more of these because, like I said, the movie is delayed indefinitely. We have no idea when it's coming out now, so who knows? Maybe we could get a few more of these before the movie comes out, just to see more of what goes on
mhm,
within, like, what's happening in a Spider-Man's life that we don't see on the big screen.
absolutely.
Um, so that would be cool. But
All right. So now we're going to talk about the trailer for a new game that's coming out. That's coming out in May.
yep,
It's
it's
called Marvel Rivals, or is it Rival Marvels?
Marvel
Marvel
Rivals
Rivals. And it is basically a 6v6 or a 5v5. I
six v
believe it's
six.
6v6. Um, it's basically, realistically, it's a combination of like League of Legends with Marvel, and also actually now that I think about it more like Overwatch and Marvel.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was. Everyone's comparing it to. It's
Overwatch.
our Overwatch, but Marvel skin. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely giving like very much Overwatch vibes, and then obviously adding the classic characters from Marvel. So some of the characters that were introduced were Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Black Panther, Loki, Spider Man, Iron Man, Hulk, something Snow, who I didn't know who that was.
yeah, I didn't know who that one was.
Um, Namor, who did not look what I was expecting him to look like.
I
I already said Iron Man, right?
believe so.
I thought so too. I'm missing somebody. I don't know who I'm missing, but anyway. And then we also.
Well,
Oh, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange.
you're missing a lot actually
No, actually, I'm only missing five more after that because that's all that was shown after that.
in the trailer, and then they gave a it was Luna Snow.
Thank you, Luna Stone. Snow.
Okay, so I have I just pulled it up. I have full list of all the characters. So that way we don't have to play a guessing game. I know you said some of them, but I'm just gonna say everything:
Just go right ahead.
Iron Man,
Yep.
Spider Man,
Mhm.
Hulk,
Mhm.
Black Panther,
Mhm.
Loki,
Mhm.
Storm,
That. Yep.
Namor, Doctor
Mhm.
Strange, Magic,
Oh, I did forget her.
Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Star Lord, Mantis, uh, Penny Parker,
Yep.
Luna Snow, Scarlet Witch,
Mhm.
Magneto,
Oh,
and the Punisher.
nice. And Magic isn't the only one. Magic turns into magic. Uh, Evil Child.
In this, it's calling her Dark Clyde.
Oh no, it's that's right. It's dark. It it sounds like child. It's supposed to be like a play, I believe.
Oh,
I
okay,
think because
makes sense.
I think it's the accent. But yes, that's her.
The way it is
No,
spelled,
no,
it
the way
makes
it's
sense.
spelled. Yes, yes, the way it's spelled, it looks like Clyde. But I think it's supposed to be child.
Yep.
Like some weird spelling of it. But anyway, that being said, we actually got to see that character in X-Men '97, which we'll talk about later. Um, both of them actually. So I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, we see the gameplay. They have ultimates, they have regular abilities and stuff like that. They're basically trying to attack each other, and it
Yep.
looks like the one that controls it all is Galactus's daughter.
Yep. And I mean, it's interesting because, like you said, they have super abilities. They have other, whatever moves. They can combine attacks, so that's
Which
pretty
is
interesting.
confusing to me, but yes.
Yeah, like you see Rocket Raccoon and Groot combining and becoming one character. I don't think we might have seen it. I don't remember. It's been a few days, but I know I've seen still shots of like Hulk doing like a beam that's attacking. That his attack is going towards Iron Man, and Iron Man is like redirecting it to another team. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
that's still a thing. It was I can't quite explain. It looked like Hulk just threw something at Iron Man and then Iron Man used it to enhance his abilities. So like I
in the still shot, it looks like a beam. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just like when I was watching the trailer, it looked like he had taken on something off his belt and thrown it. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't know because it's hard to kind of it's kind of hard for Hulk to team up with certain characters. Like
that's
Rocket
true.
Raccoon would make the most amount of sense. Black Panther would be kind of cool too. Like he kind of throws him around because realistically, Black
His
Panther wouldn't be hurt by it or shouldn't
He
be.
gets stronger the more damage he takes. So
Correct. Well, his suit does anyway. So it's
that's
like one of those things where it's like that makes sense to me. The Iron Man one doesn't, and so I'm trying to like figure that piece out. But I mean, like on paper, like they did it.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
I just don't get it. But I've also only saw one iteration of it. But other
yep.
than that, I mean, it looks like that's what it is. It didn't show. It showed them just fighting each other. It didn't show like any tasks that they needed to do. But it very much gave me Overwatch vibes for not only because at first I thought it was League of Legends until I saw like the gameplay, and then I
Mhm.
was like, oh no, that's more of Overwatch.
Yep. And like you said it comes out in May.
That's what it said.
Yep, comes out in May. It's free to play, so
Yes,
it'll be
on
interesting.
Steam. Not a sponsor. You'd be surprised at how often you have to say that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I think that's pretty much it for the game. I mean, we're not going to know
yeah.
more until it gets closer slash play it.
It was a
All
it
right.
was a minute long trailer, so it's not like it's anything
No, it
big.
wasn't anything crazy. I mean, it was just really cool to kind of see like the characters they chose
Yep.
because some of them were not ones. So like, there's one that I didn't even know was Marvel. All the others I knew were Marvel. They just wouldn't have been my first choice, and I'm kind of surprised they went with them.
And
Like
if this
obviously the
game,
regular, like the Hulk, Spider Man,
yeah,
Iron Man, and Black Panther made sense to me, and I understand the Guardians because everyone loves them now. But I mean, Scarlet Witch as well, Storm because of the X Men, but Magneto, like those were the ones that made sense. But it's like Magix is not a known character too much. Um, Penelope, um, Penelope Spider or Penelope Parker.
Parker, Parker. I
Yeah.
don't think it was Penelope. It's not Penelope, but yeah, Parker.
Anyway, that one, and then and just those in general, like they're not the most popular ones, and I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Like Loki, I was surprised not because I understand how popular he is now. I was more surprised because that's a tough character to bring into a game.
hmm I mean, like I could imagine, like his maybe his like ability is just to trick someone to think it's another kind of character, and then like
Well, actually, it
he
looks
has
like he
his
makes
own.
clones of himself, like decoys,
That could also be another one.
which
That's 100.
which
percent
makes sense.
Yep.
And I think it's supposed to look like they're shooting at you, but they can't do any damage. So it's like is a distraction. Is what it looks like. I don't know for sure, but that's what it looks like.
I mean, if depending on how successful this game is, they bring in other characters, build up
Oh,
on the world,
100%. I mean,
So
they have an entire Marvel universe to play with. So it's
yep.
like you only put in a few characters to begin with, and then you start bringing in like because you want to save like your Wolverines, your Deadpools for later because it's like
hmm
we want people to want to keep playing, and we don't want to bring all the good characters out first, which you
And
cannot blame them.
you can tie in other like you have events that tie into the movies or major shows that are
Different
coming out at that
skins.
time.
That's
So
the other thing too.
there's a
Skins are
lot that
always
they
a
can
big
do with
thing
this.
because all the different variants of characters. I mean, how many
Well,
suits?
different variants. They could also just go the money hungry route and just do it as cosmetics. So um,
Well, no, what I'm saying is, but they still have to introduce him. Like, they're not going to bring all of the different skins out at once. They're
No,
going to
no,
be
no. I know,
making
I know. What I mean is like they
like I
like a variant might not be its own character. They'll just have it as put it in as a cosmetic.
no, that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. We're saying the
Oh.
exact same thing.
Oh. Okay.
I'm talking about like the suit, like all the different suits Iron Man has, all the
Yeah.
different
Oh yeah.
outfits Scarlet Witch has. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they're variants, but my point I'm making is it's the same character. It's just
Hmm.
a different, like you said, cosmetic.
I understand now.
Um, all right, are we ready to move on to
Yep.
X
Let's.
Men the animated series?
Yep.
All right, so
Let's final season.
I didn't like it.
I after season 4, this season felt very much like a money grab. They didn't care. It was just a 10 episodes thrown together, and they were like, you know what, they were like, oh, you know what, we can milk the series for one more season, and the animation got worse.
So here's my thing, and this is something I learned. So yeah, I will agree that the animation did get worse. I was not a fan of it. But no, one of the things that killed me was they were only offered 80 something episodes to begin with, and they just never asked for more. So this was just the end of their 80 whatever episodes, and they were kind of just like, and I don't think they were seasons like we remember as kids.
Well, absolutely. When we were kids, it's a different story.
So the other thing too, like I wasn't a fan of it. I mean, I did like some of the stories were cool. Kind of seeing Captain America was kind of cool.
Hmm.
Um who was he? Oh, Mr. Sinister's origin was cool.
Yeah.
But like that's it.
Like this
Oh,
see
and
like
the very last episode I did like,
the last episode like hit you in the feels.
which is what it was
Um,
supposed to do.
exactly. And it's one of those things where it was like like I said, the it had nice little stories in it, but they didn't really go together. It was just like I said, it felt like it just they were
It
like,
was
okay,
10
we have
episodes
to
that were
make
kind of just there.
yeah, we have to make one more season. Let's
The
do it.
first 4 episodes felt like the old animation, like from the other seasons.
Kind of.
No, they were.
Yeah.
I mean, they were weird, but they were technically like the same animation. They kept the same style and everything else. And then when we
It
got
just
to,
like
and then all of a
I
sudden, the
could
last 6 episodes were like this weird.
it like went it like as the season progressed, it got worse and worse and worse. And I like on the last episode when they had Rogue, I was like, what is this? Like Rogue
Yeah,
was the one that
the
stood
hair
out
looked
the
really,
most.
the hair looked really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like I think body wise, she probably looked the same. Personally, I think what threw it off was the hair for me, and I was just kind of like it
But
ruined
just
everything.
in general too, like the whole season, like the colors were like brighter, and
But
just
not in a good
wasn't.
way.
Yeah, it wasn't appealing. It just like they just like enhanced the coloring for some reason and just made it brighter, and it did like the way it was before was just better.
No, I agree.
Um,
No, absolutely. I mean, I did like the end, the very end.
mhm.
See, that's what I remembered the most. I did not remember, and I shouldn't say that. I did remember like the planet that Storm goes to, but like I thought it was earlier, whatever. But like everything else, I don't even remember that Captain America was in it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
like, and then I forgot about the Mister Sinister. What's it called? The backstory.
Yep.
So I forgot
That
all
was
that
cool.
stuff, and then I didn't like when we had the apocalypse back, that his animation really did not look
Um,
right.
yeah. And
Like the beast. That's when we
it's like
first
they
saw.
just brought him back just to
That
bring
was
him
the
back.
well. That no, it wasn't so much that. It was the beast. It was the beast and Jubilee
Yeah.
animation. Where I was kind of just
Yep.
like, that's the first time we saw them in this new animation. I was kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
Beast wasn't too bad, but Jubilee, it just did. He lost a lot.
But what I meant like was like it would not in the sense like they brought him back just to bring him back, but it's like you had such a good ending, and it's just in my head because of how sour my taste is for this season. I just feel like him coming back was just like, what was the point? It was like just brought him back for no reason.
Also,
I
why was he in the
understand,
astral plane?
huh?
Also, why was he in the astral plane is my question. Like,
Yeah,
I had a
like
lot of questions in the sense of like that made no sense because where he was the void of time, and it doesn't make any sense that he would all of a sudden pop up in the void. I mean, in the astral
it
plane.
just like it just seemed random and unnecessary. So like that, like I understand, like okay, Apocalypse is the big villain; he's always around, kind of thing. But it's like, it wasn't needed.
I agree. No, I agree. I think there was a lot of that going on in this season.
Hmm.
But overall, I mean, it just wasn't that great. I
The last
personally,
episode made the season.
well, the last episode made the show really. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it put a little cherry on top. It's like you had the nice cone, the nice ice cream. You know, you had the nice whipped cream, right? Then they just put like raisins on it for some reason, and then put the cherry on top, and you're confused at why the raisins are there because everything else was good, and the raisins are just like, like they weren't horrendous, like it didn't ruin the whole thing, but it's not something I want to eat again. And like that's how I felt about the.
This is
That's
the
how I felt.
strangest analogy that I've heard from
But
you.
did it work? It
It,
worked.
it worked. It
I
worked.
know. I know it
It
did.
doesn't make it any less strange.
No, I'm not saying it isn't strange. What I'm getting at is it's just it's the point I'm making. Like it's all these different parts that go really well, and all of a sudden you put one thing in it, and you're like, the hell? And that was basically the season, except for like I said, the final episode. Overall, like I said, the series was great. I remember it being great, so I wasn't concerned on that front.
Yeah, it
It
was a
had more.
good series.
It had to do more with just the final season in general.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of glad they got away from season five in the sense of like their animation and went with getting closer to the original.
Like yeah, the colors are right in the new. So good segue. The colors are right in the new season, new show, and the animation in general is more updated because obviously it's
It's
30 years later. But
correct.
it I'm glad that they didn't stick with the decisions they decided to do with season five.
No,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, Magneto changed, but Magneto changed made sense.
mhm.
He's not the villain anymore, or not supposed to be. So he's looking more like a hero. So like that change doesn't bother me. Morph doesn't bother me because, and that's because I know Morph's backstory in the sense of like that's what Morph is supposed to look like. So
Yep,
he's feeling more comfortable in his quite literally his own skin.
yep, yep. Makes
Um,
perfect sense.
everyone else,
And
everyone else
it's
was
been
like slight variations.
except for Rogue.
I don't think it was that bad personally.
No, it's not. I'm just like it's poking fun at the
Storm's
people.
hairstyle definitely changed for sure. That was the big one.
Hmm.
But that didn't bother me at all.
No,
And then everyone else was fine. I mean, Jean Grey. I mean, pregnant. I mean, that changes
the
things.
so, like
For a
they
second.
make it work because it's been a year since the show ended.
Oh yeah,
So
they can get
everything
away
that
with a little bit of changes, and it won't
yeah,
ruin anything.
exactly. Like we don't like
Bishop doesn't
within
have
the
his
year,
Bishop has
which
short hair now.
we don't know what's happened with him, but within the
Well, he has
year,
short
you could
hair. Is what
say
I'm
like
saying.
everything that happened makes sense in their changes. Like it took a year for what's his name, Morph, to become comfortable again and being able to be himself. Magneto goes into hiding, however it is, and he comes back and he's a changed person. Like I said,
I
Storm is just a
also, but
haircut.
also too, it looked to me, or I felt it more, or made more sense to me that when we saw that final episode, Magneto was realizing that maybe Charles was right, and then
Hmm.
he started to contemplate it, and then he comes back a year later. Like it's
Yep.
kind of like one of those things where he's trying to figure out like what does he do, because like he was ready to destroy the world, and then he's like, my friend's dying. All right, people, we ain't doing it yet. I got shit.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And I was just like, I like that. I did like that. Um, some of the things I will say in this anime, like in the original series, was people changing their mind pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that had to do with the fact that they only had so much time.
Yeah.
Um, but no, let's move away from the old one, and that's on me. Let's talk about this latest episode. This episode, man. Um, I'll say this. I predicted what my predictions were pretty not right until the very end. Like the very end of the episode, like the end of the episode, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got this right." And then the other part, I was in the right ballpark. It wasn't like I was that far away, but I definitely wasn't right because I knew that obviously one of them was a clone made by Sinister, so that piece I knew was right. Because I'm like, the only person that does clones is friggin' Mr. Sinister, right?
Hmm.
I was not prepared for the one that was pregnant was the clone.
Yeah, yeah. That one kind of came. That one was a big twist.
And then they're like, by the way, the gene that walked through the door is the real gene, and you're the fake. And she's like, what? And then she's like, wait a minute, guys. Like, I'm good. And everyone's like, well, we got to make sure. And she's like, are you serious right now?
Which I mean is understandable. With if you're convinced that you're the real you, and then being told that you're not, and your friends who you thought were your friends or don't have your back, it's
But you also have to agree on their end in the sense of like being like
one
all the
hundred
stuff that
percent.
all the stuff that they've seen, like they're not surprised that there was a clone. Like you know what I'm saying? Like in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of like that's not the surprising part. The surprising part is why aren't you trying to kill us? Foreshadowing.
Why aren't you trying to kill us? How did this happen?
How did you give birth? All this stuff.
I mean, especially with Scott, like not knowing who he fell in love with.
Well,
I
that's the
mean,
other question that comes later in the sense
hmm
of when was she switched?
exactly. I
Because
mean,
there's no right answer.
no, we don't know.
No, I
There,
know,
like,
but there were multiple times where she was kidnapped. So they made it perfect where it's like there's this, um, there's this big like kind of like wiggle room of like, well, was it how many years ago? Like, was it the first time she was captured? Because I think she was captured 3 times, 4 times.
mhm. I can't even remember.
I think she was captured 3 times. One of which was technically Apocalypse, but he helped out in it, and he could have gotten her DNA that way.
True, true.
So like there are
Well,
many.
I mean, I wouldn't even say like gotten her DNA. Like they showed that she was
No, they switched.
legitimately, huh?
No, well that, but I mean, they also show like we never saw the switch, so I think
No.
that's the big thing too, and that messes with me a little bit because so in the comics this is very comic book accurate to a certain degree. Obviously, there's a little bit of changes and stuff like that. So the clone of Jean Grey is called oh my gosh,
I
Madeline
I did.
Madeline Pryor.
Yeah, I did look it
I
up.
know Pryor is correct, but some reason Madeline I feel like is wrong. Um, and her powers are similar to Jean Grey, but obviously slightly augmented by Mr. Sinister. And she goes by the name Goblin Queen. And she's
Yep, the
basically a
Goblin Queen. Yep.
yeah. She basically like tries to protect Mr. Sinister because at first she has all like the mindset of Jean Grey, but then Mr. Sinister uses the implant that he put inside of her to fully control her. And let me tell you, I know like that's not Jean Grey, but it's Jean Grey. Jean Grey, the Goblin Queen, took out Magneto like he was made of paper.
I mean, we know that Jean Grey is a very powerful mutant if she has a mastery of her powers.
I agree with you, but my point I'm making is it's just one of those things where you go from Magneto being a powerhouse, and again, I'm not saying he still isn't. He still
Yeah.
is.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, going up against one person and being like slapped, and like all his clothes were ripped up. I mean, it was a sad day for him. I did like when she became the Goblin Queen at first. She started manipulating all the X Men to be scared,
hmm
which I thought was kind of cool. And then when we get to Sinister's palace, we see Morph get transformed again into evil morph for a minute, and he
hmm
goes to magic to um, evil child or evil Clyde, and then it goes ham. And I just thought that was kind of cool. And then it was Jean Grey that basically brings Madeline Pryor into her own mind, and the two of them live their lives together. And then she
hmm
realizes that she's got to protect her son, who then she breaks the hold on her from Mister Sinister. And Goblin Queen's like, Scott, we got to go save our son. And then they go out there and just beat Mister Sinister to a pulp, pull their son out, who now has a virus, which I
Yep.
had said last episode.
You did.
Well, I said it was one of 3 things. So
Yep.
but that obviously was one of them. But we still don't know which one, because that still leads to 2 of them.
I was gonna say
So
it's either Cable or Evil Cable, correct?
correct. Well, it's weird because it could be both. Still, it's time travel's weird. Um,
Fair.
welcome to my life, right? Because in the just on a side note, Age of Apocalypse is its own universe. okay, where Apocalypse had taken over the world, right?
Yep.
And in that particular universe is where that evil version of Cable first was introduced,
Hmm.
which was where that virus completely took over Cable.
Yep.
It's a techno virus.
So now here's my thing. When they went when so jumping around when Bishop took Cable to his timeline to cure him, is he why is he stuck in that timeline? He can't come. Like, he can't bring him back. What? Why? That's the thing that I wasn't understanding. Like, is did the virus prevent him from coming back, or like just plot?
No, I think there's something to do because somehow Cable gets into like 1,000 years even more into the future.
That I know.
Um,
Yep.
so I think Apocalypse gets in there somehow because now you got to realize Nathan doesn't have the protection of his parents anymore because they would be able to stop Apocalypse or at least stop him from taking the kid.
Hmm.
Bishop, on the other hand, is not as powerful as them.
Yep.
So therefore, I'm thinking Apocalypse is going to be taking Cable.
Okay. Makes
Because
sense
the
then.
idea is he wants Cable because he wants him to be a horseman of Apocalypse.
Yep.
And then obviously that doesn't work out. Cable then spends his life fighting the future Apocalypse and then goes back in time to try to fight the Apocalypse, um, to then also team up with his parents 1,000 years earlier, even though he was born in that time frame. Yep, welcome to Marvel. Uh,
I just
and then,
didn't know if it was because the way that they made it seem was like, okay, we have a cure in our time in my future or in my present, I guess for Bishop. I'll take him there, give him the cure, and it's like, and but he has to stay there. It's like, why if you give him the cure, can't you then just bring him back? But if
well, I
Apocalypse
don't
comes in,
think so.
kidnaps him,
I
that
think
kind of
this is
thing, then I understand.
I think there's also the disconnect too that I think it's not the fact that they don't know how long it's going to take for him to get a cure.
I so like I understand them like Jean and a Cyclops not knowing, but just in my head it's like I feel like Bishop never said like, oh, I can bring him back. That's like
Well, I
my
think it's all you got to realize too. Like he doesn't know how long it's going to be until this kid is cured, and he might have to wait time on their end. And if he comes back with a teenager in the same
fair.
time, you know what I'm saying? He might wait because he's got to realize that we need to get this kid closer to the age that mommy and daddy are now. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay.
realistically, I would imagine that's kind of what he's thinking, um, in my mind, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm going with that piece. Um, but yeah, so then Mister Sinister gets beat. Cable's got the virus. They go into the future, and Madeline.
Yep. That's what you said.
Did I? Oh, I'm proud of me. Uh,
Madeline Pryor.
Madeline Pryor calls herself Madeline Pryor, and then decides to leave the X Men.
I loved that they show like I'm loving the new series showcasing every person's just abilities. Like I love that in this episode we saw Jean versus Jean, and they were both very powerful. Both they're not just getting tossed around; that they're the damsel in distress. Like they both held their own. And I liked Cyclops being powerful enough that he could take on Madeline Pryor, but because he still has this conflicting feeling of who is she, he can't pull the trigger. I loved that, like you hinted at it. You talked about it earlier, where you said like Madeline Pryor destroyed Magneto, and they showed that in this episode where Magneto just got tossed around because he's trying to be this good guy and he's trying to do things Charles's way, that he's not fighting back, and she's just able to toss him around
Well,
because
like, so it's more of like, and I do get what you're saying. In my mind, it's more of like he's capturing than fighting, like that, like, and I think that's where
yeah.
he was getting his butt kicked on because yeah, he was definitely trying to stop her, and then he realized, oh no, like then she started literally throwing glass at him,
Hmm.
and he couldn't block everything, and it was cutting him up.
Yep. Like I said, like if this was the Magneto where he's just trying to kill her, like
It
he's
would have
not
been a
holding
very
back.
different fight. It would have been a very
Yeah.
different fight. I still don't think he would have won, but I definitely think he would have. It would have looked a lot different.
Whereas, like with where it's Jean Grey and Madeline Pride, like Madeline Pride in this episode
Right.
prior, sorry, um, she's not holding back. She has mastery of her powers because Sinister helped unlock her powers. So she's able to just do whatever she wants. Whereas Jean Grey still has like that iffiness where like I don't have full mastery. She tries to hold back because she doesn't want to hurt people.
I
So
was going to say it's more of that. Yeah, it's more of the fact of like she holds back. It's not so much that she has mastery of her powers because Jean Grey could control her powers. She just doesn't have the confidence in it, and
yeah,
that's kind of what this shows. And then Mister Sinister just gets up and goes away. Um, and that was pretty much it. I mean, the episode was kind of.
I feel
Um,
bad for Wolverine because he has a chance. He helps wake Jean up, and it's still instantly forget about you. Where's Scott? Just
yeah, but that's also not surprising.
I mean, it's Wolverine and Jean's story. Like that's how it always is. But it's like, oh, sad.
Yeah, but I agree with you. So anyway, we have all that happening, and then that was pretty much the end of the episode.
Yeah, no, it was
Oh no, sorry, there was one other piece. So Storm's in a bar drinking, which is
and they hint.
against the law in cartoon imagery. Anyway, she's drinking a beer, and some random guy comes up to her, which we should recognize. I hope you recognized him when you saw him.
I recognized him. If you ask me who he was, I'm not going to remember, but I know
It's Forge.
they said it was Forge. Yeah, they said it was Forge. That's yeah. That what I'm saying. Like right. Sorry, I misspoke at what it is. I knew who it was when he said it. Right now, I didn't
No,
remember.
what I meant was, did you recognize who he was when you saw him? Like when
Oh
you
yeah.
saw. Oh yeah. Okay, good. And he's basically telling Storm that he might have a way to get her powers back.
Yep.
Because I forgot that realistically, she wasn't there to meet X Force, which
Hmm.
is why she didn't recognize Forge.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how come she doesn't know who he is? We saw him already. And then turns out it's because she wasn't there. I forgot.
Yep. But
Also, fun fact we learned in this episode: Colossus's sister is a mutant now.
yeah, I do remember that. I'm just blanking on when in the episode we saw that.
When he turns into magic, that's Colossus's sister.
Okay. Yep.
So by definition, if he's able to have seen that, then therefore she exists and has powers.
We know of it. Yep.
Because that was
Okay.
like basically our thing of to show us like, oh, that exists.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about this episode?
No, I mean it was a good episode. Hinted at a lot of stuff. Hinted at things that could be coming.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know what I mean. I personally don't know what's next in the episode. Uh,
The only thing that would make sense to me is like we're gonna see Storm get experimented on to get her powers back, but like that's not gonna be the whole episode for sure.
yeah. I mean, yeah. It's the I don't know what the next episode is going to be.
No,
So it's like,
no, they did a perfect job of not letting giving us any hints either.
yep.
All right, so let's move on to the Bad Batch. This was another quick episode in my opinion because even though decent amount of things happened, it wasn't anything crazy again. Um,
I'll be honest. I was a little disappointed in it.
I
Like,
was expecting more.
yeah,
I also I don't like the ambiguity of Omega, like whether or not she has a high M count or not.
yeah. I mean, she didn't get the time to train. We got the introduction. We got Ventress to be reintroduced. She's clearly alive. They hinted at how she survived, um, and it just like they went about and trying to test if Omega had her abilities, and obviously with the short span that she had, it wasn't enough time to see. And Ventress is still basically like at the same time she doesn't want to figure out if she has the M count because she wants to try to protect her a little bit more. Because
Mhm.
if they found out that she has force sensitive abilities, she's going to become a much bigger target than she already is.
Correct.
And you know like I said, I just was a little disappointed. Like I was expecting more to see Ventress. I didn't expect to see her just for like that, like, just this little bit, and then that was it. So that's kind of on me because I was like, I was very excited to like she's gonna have such a big part, and
She didn't.
she didn't. Um, I was also disappointed that we only got a hint as to what happened after the book,
Yeah. Yeah, I
which
agree.
apparently they have said that they're not going to tell us in this series what happened to Ventress, but they will tell us later on, which means there's going to be another spin-off involving her.
Which makes sense. Yeah, I think for me, it was good in the sense of I love the fact that she went hand to hand combat on the boys
Mm,
and just took them out. I love the tests for Omega because I felt like the second test wasn't a test; it was more of to get her out of there.
get her away. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
And then the third test was the third test. Obviously, I mean, we got to see how powerful Ventress is in the sense that we kind of already knew, but also the fact that she's using the Force for good purposes at times now too.
they made a purpose to show that she is at least more on the light side than the dark side by getting a close up of her eyes.
Yes, yes, that is also true. I wasn't a fan of her hairstyle
I mean, the
in
hairstyle is
this
the hairstyle,
animation.
so
I think it was more when she got wet. It was weird. Like it was fine until she got wet, and then the hair kind of went everywhere, kind of like your hair, and it was just kind of it didn't. It just did. It looked too much like chicken.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I say it, and you now go, "Oh, that makes sense,"
No,
because
no, no.
unfortunately, it
You're
doesn't.
you're 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 right. I was thinking that, but I was like, it's no big deal.
It wasn't the end of the world. It literally was only when she was wet. You know what I mean? Like when she went in the water. So I wasn't like super mad about it.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So we got to see her powers and everything else, but then she just left, up and left, and I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, "Oh, that kind of sucks." I was expecting something more. I wasn't expecting Omega to have force abilities or anything like that, but I
Hmm.
was expecting more the fact of like what the heck, like I thought this was going to go the way I thought it was going to go differently. I thought we were going to
Yeah.
see her for a little bit more, and we're
Yeah.
not, or at
Exactly.
least we're not thinking we are.
I mean, she basically hinted. I mean, we know what's going to happen because I know in previous episodes I had said that we saw the Empire invading what we thought was the island, and now they hinted at it very strongly by Venture saying, "If I was able to find you, then the Empire will have no issues finding you. So you
Oh,
have to get out of here."
actually, we do know we see Ventress again
Do we?
in the trailer. We never saw her remember in the trailer we saw her. That scene was not in this episode.
Where she ignited her lightsaber?
When she kind of like folded down and then did it. Like, yeah, she put her lightsaber up, yes, but I don't think that was the same one as the one from this episode
I
because I think
thought
it
it
was a
was.
different background.
I
Because
thought it was, but
I could
I
be
mean, if
wrong.
she comes
Maybe,
back, great.
but either way, it's not the end of the world. I agree with Mike. This wasn't the greatest episode. We thought. I will say this. I thought we were going to get a lot more information from this episode than we did, and we did not. So I'm
Yep.
kind of. I think that's where my disappointment comes in.
Yeah.
But I also, like Mike said, I'm imagining we're going to be getting close to the Empire attacking them on the island. But right now, we don't know what's happening next.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I think with that hint at the end of the episode saying the Empire will find you, I think that's going to be next episode. To be honest, just
Yeah,
because, like, I mean, it's a heavy hint. They're the Bad Batch is going to need a reason to leave the island. Otherwise, they're not
and
going to.
also the other reason why I agree with you is because I think next week's is a 2 week two episode.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
I think
No.
so. So like, even if it's not the next episode, it's definitely next week for sure.
Okay. Then I'm going to look up the seasons just to make sure.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's this week or the week after. It's coming up. I know that because there is one more double week. Like something's
Uh, what? So no, no. Next week. Oh, okay. Interesting. Do you want to know the name of the episode?
I don't care. That's fine.
Episode 10. It is not a double episode according to this.
Is it
Episode
11 and
10.
12 then the following week?
I'm assuming so. It must be the following week. The episode 10 is called Identity Crisis.
I think that's for Omega. I would assume. I don't know if
So
that's.
that'll be an interesting, either Omega or maybe even hang on. There's no more double episodes.
Um, no, genius. Yeah, there is. Next week, there's three. There's two episodes that premiere on April 3rd.
Oh, okay.
Identity Crisis and Point of No Return.
Yep. Okay, that's weird because when I looked up the schedule thing, it didn't. It only showed episode 10. It didn't show episode 11. That's weird.
Yeah, and then after that, there's no more.
No more double episodes. Yep.
No more double episodes.
I had to go to a different site. That was weird. Why would they not show both?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But yeah, so that goes well. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think we're gonna need those two episodes, especially after these last two episodes. We need the hype again. Not to say now. Here's my thing. When I say that, I don't want to say that I thought these episodes were horrible. These
Yeah.
episodes were just not as good as the other ones before it.
Not this week's episode. Last week's episode, I was okay with.
No,
This
I
week's
agree.
episode. This week's
I was more
episode was just,
disappointed.
yeah. It was more on me because I
You
expected
had higher
more.
hopes.
So because it didn't hit my expectations, it kind of let me down a little bit, which is on me. So I'm not gonna fault that. It's still a good episode. It still
Mhm.
did a lot. Um, and especially with next week being a double episode, there's gonna be a lot that happens. So
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think it's going to be a slow start. I think in like the next episode, but then
mhm,
it's going to build up, and then we're going to be like, oh no, we got to watch the second episode, which thankfully will be the same week,
yeah,
and then watch that one. It's going to be, I think it's going to be jam packed.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't, we know where this is going. So the Empire's gonna invade. They're gonna probably take Omega. Bad Batch is gonna go try to save her again, and we're gonna see if they are successful with creating the clones in this or not.
Correct.
Um,
Anything else you want to add before we move on to our final episode of the podcast?
nope. Let's move on to Invincible.
Okay, so this one was messy. And when I say messy, it was not it was a good first off, it was a good episode.
It was a good episode.
So I'll say this. So I sent Mike a meme before watching this episode,
Yep.
and I think Mike figured out 2 plus 2 on that one because I thought it was something different. I thought it was like a dig at the season, and it was, but it was in the episode, so I hadn't seen it yet. I obviously now have seen it. Um,
And I said my response. I'm
you
like,
did
I
send your
sat here
response. I'm like, what
watching.
is he talking about? Like, you were expecting more. What do you mean expecting more? And then when I watched the episode, I was like, that's what Mike was talking about. It was
Like,
legitimately what I sent him was legitimately
it
that
was just
scene,
what was in the
which was like
episode.
which was the comic book scene, or the Comic Con scene with Invincible and the head writer talking about why it took so long for the newest season to come out.
And just taking like a,
I legitimately thought it was like a whole different thing. Like I
yep.
didn't realize it was part of the episode, which makes it even funnier.
I
Especially
get this. I'm like, this guy hasn't watched the episode yet. He's gonna get it. He
no,
got
I
a
saw it and I
spoiler
was like,
without getting a
you know what?
spoiler.
All joking aside, you know when I thought that came out? I thought that came out like before season 2 came out, like as a like it was supposed to be
Oh,
like a joke,
it seemed like it would be.
right? Right? And if you hadn't seen the episode, you would have thought so.
Yep.
Um, so one of the big things here is that I wanted to talk about was we have a lot of growth. Like Cecil is weird, but like good. I don't know how to explain Cecil anymore.
See now, like I said this in the last episode where I'm like, I can't put my finger on Cecil because like I want to
Yeah.
trust him, but I can't. And in this episode, it just even more emphasized that I want to trust him, but I can't.
Yes, like he's a government official, and I'm like, I can't trust him. I can't. And yet at the same time, he's doing like actually good things, and I'm like, is it really good or is it fake? Like I don't know. So the
I'm
piece
just
we're talking about is his second command has died a total of 36 times.
that he can
that
keep
he's
track
able
of.
that he's been able to watch.
Yep. And
And
like,
every time he supposedly tells Cecil he doesn't want to be reminded, which I kind of believe. I'm on the fence on every single time. You know what I'm
well,
saying?
no, no, no. So the way it is like at the beginning he wanted to remember, but then after a certain point it started messing with him.
Oh, that's right.
So
That's
that's
right.
when he was like, "No, I need my memory erased. I can't keep doing this."
And then
Um,
this time he decided against it.
this time he definitely did, at least for now.
No, correct. But I think he's finally come to grips to the fact of like, you know what? I feel all right now because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and protecting people. And
Hmm.
like my the world is a little bit better because of me. And he got what's his name, William's boyfriend, to not jump off the cliff. Um,
Well, it
he's
begins with an R, right?
Ralph, Roy, doesn't matter.
Either way, boyfriend.
I mean, put it this way: the fact that I remember William's name is a
I didn't
like,
remember that much, so I'll give it to you.
I'm like the fact that that came in my head. I was like, good for me, good for me. Um, but anyway, it was a big struggle for him because he was trying to figure out. So William's boyfriend was trying to figure out because he was disassembled, right, and then put back together,
Yep.
and he's just not feeling whole. And that's when Cecil's number two is like, hey, like,
Donald.
thank you, Donald. Donald is like, hey, we like I know exactly how you feel. How can you? And then he opens up his chest, and it's just like, oh, he's
Which I can understand now him wanting to have his memories because he in his head now that he remembers he can help people even more than how he were previously did because like in this case like the guy wouldn't have listened to him unless he showed that he was exactly like him.
well. I think that was kind of like the point in the sense of because at first he was like, erase my memories again, and then
Yep.
he got the phone call from William, and I think that's when he was like, you know what, we're not doing it.
Yep.
I think I need to remember,
Yes.
which I did like. Yeah, Cecil, I just cannot get a read on him to save my life. Like
It's like
seriously.
this episode just like like he helped Donald, he helps Immortal. I mean, he clearly like
But
cares.
at the same time, he's also allowing the scientists to rip up bodies in the basement. So like
Yep.
we see all of that going on, and I'm just like, what? Like I
Which, by
really
the way, just so you know, that scientist, which if you didn't put two and two together, that scientist, as I sent you, was apparently played by Ezra Miller before.
in season one. I know
In
you sent me that, and I didn't know.
no idea.
Um, so I didn't even notice that there was a voice change. To be honest with you,
Yeah, no.
so but anyway, so we see him briefly. So we see him in a nightmare first. We see him in a
Yep.
nightmare first, and then we see him that he's actually alive, working for the government and trying to pretty much put super soldiers together.
Yep.
And Cecil wanted as many as he had ready, and the guy's like, "I got none." And he's like,
None already.
he's just like, Jesus. He's like, well, granted, he swore, but he's just like, what the hell is going on in this place? He's like, he's trying to get all the help he can, and he's like, I got nobody, and we're kind of screwed.
Hmm.
And the reason why this was a concern was because Mark was up against a Viltrumite who is considered potentially stronger than his father.
Hmm.
And
She is she holds no remorse.
no, she was smacking Mark around like he was a chew toy.
She like I liked this episode because I like I can't like they played such a massive mind game on humans with that because it's like we care. If you come under our empire, we will enhance your planet
And
beyond your belief.
yeah, I think for me, like it was one of those weird things because I'm so used to them just talking about conquering,
Yeah,
and then I'm like, that's not what they're saying, and I'm like, they kind of have a point to a certain degree. Now I'm
yeah,
not on their side. I'm not on their side, but I'm just like I can like I kind of understand where they're coming from. They're so
yeah.
powerful that they could literally save
Save the planet.
everyone, like
Yeah,
for millennia, like their technology and everything else. And then I'm thinking to myself, really?
like if
That
that
was
if
that
that were
wasn't
the
the point.
case, why are so many other planets against them? Like, like I mean, I'm assuming that it's like okay, you save the planet, and then it's like you become slaves. But it's like,
Well, I don't know if it's that necessarily, or if it's just become you basically, as weird as it sounds, they breed into each other until they're all Viltrumites, basically. So, like, as more of my guess,
mhm.
because you can't have, I don't think you can have a pure-blooded Viltrumite anymore. I think that, I think there's a lot of inbreeding if that happens now. Um,
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like if I mean, everyone becomes Viltrumites. You're all. I mean, not all Viltrumites are the same. I mean, you have the main Viltrumites on their planet, and then they
but
start
are they
spreading
the
out.
main? Like, here's my question: like, are they full-blooded Viltrumites? Because realistically, the more powerful ones look like Viltrumites, but because here's the thing, they're telling Mark he's a Viltrumite. They're not telling him he's a hybrid. You know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
yeah, but I mean, if you're with that logic, then even on as humans, none of us are full blooded.
No, you're absolutely right.
So,
No,
but so what I mean is like after a
but you're
point when you're
choosing it. But my point I'm making is you're choosing which heritage to follow, which
no so what I'm trying to say is like I'm technically like almost full blooded Italian,
which you're not.
which I'm not because I was born in the U.S. If I were to go to Italy and get an Italian wife, then that Italian blood will become stronger versus the American blood will become less. So, like, I can reintegrate into becoming full blooded Italian by continuing.
All right, so hear me out on this piece, okay? Because I think this is you. Nobody can be full blooded anything anymore just because of all of the. Now, when I say this, because of all immigration and all this stuff and all this stuff moving around,
I mean, yes,
nobody should be full blooded anything unless there was inbreeding involved. And I'm being, excuse me, I'm being very honest here. The difference being is your family has come from Italy, meaning like so because of that they've
yeah,
integrated into the culture. So in their mind they are full blooded Italian, and I'm not arguing that piece. I'm not
yeah,
going to go up to your parents. I'm not that stupid to go up to your parents and say you're not a
I
full
am.
blooded Italian. My point I'm making though is the fact that it's like nobody's 100% anything, but you can be 100% involved in the culture, and I think
but
that's
so
more of what you're getting at a little bit than the actual like bloodline, because the bloodline's a little weird.
I
That's
mean,
a whole
see
that's a
the
whole Nazi thing that I don't want to get involved with, Mike.
well, I mean, my only thing with that logic for that is like then no one's been full blooded anything since the beginning of time, because as soon as humans started, say we started in Africa, as soon as you split off, there was inbreeding. You
Hmm.
started with inbreeding. Like there's
Hmm.
no two ways about it.
No, and I'm not. But what I'm getting at is like, so the reason why they would call it like 100% anything is based on like the areas in which your families were from, in the sense of, and it would only go back to a certain degree. So like, what I'm getting at is like, yeah, if we go all the way back, yes, but our DNA can't go. I don't think our DNA can go all the way back when they do like the DNA tests. I don't think it goes all the way back to like Africa every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it depends on the area. So I think my point I'm making is the fact of like because of that, there's no full blooded anything anymore. Like meaning like 100%. You could be like it's rare to have something like in the 80s. Like the fact that I'm actually like 80% Scottish is a shock to everyone, especially because my family supposedly came over from France.
Yeah. With that name, yeah.
No, but seriously, that's what I'm saying. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's way too complex for that. But what I'm getting at is it's like I don't think the Viltrumites are like as weird as it sounds, like I don't think the Viltrumites are only Viltrumites. Like the humans can be only humans. You know what I mean? Because there's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many of them.
yeah,
I don't think the Viltrumites are only Viltrumites because what they do is they kind of have a purge all the time, and
yeah.
only the strongest come. So then they can't keep sleeping with each other. They got to go find other planets to conquer, and one way to conquer is conquer with your DNA, and that's how they do it.
You know, the you when the way you said conquer, I don't like that. It made me uncomfortable, and I would like it if you don't do that again.
It's gonna be another one of the words I'm not allowed to say.
Yes.
Mike has a
See, at
no,
least
no, no.
with your
Wait, wait,
motions.
wait. Okay, at some point, not in this episode, Mike, I think this will be like the end of the year thing. So keep listening. Mike's gonna go over a list of words and phrases I'm not allowed to say, and there's a council actually that actually discusses what words and phrases I am and am not allowed to say. And it's more of so much of the fact of what I'm not allowed to say. They don't really want me to talk, period, but they definitely will tell me. what I'm not allowed to say, and there is a list. It's not a huge list, I'll say that, but it's a list. More than two. I think there's five now. But anyway,
I'm letting the council know what that this word is being added.
but I think it's not the word itself, it's how I said it. Can we agree on that piece?
100%.
Okay, fair enough. I can say the word. I can say conquer. I can't do it in that way again.
But we know that it doesn't matter the context. It's if it's been banned, it ain't allowed to be said no matter what.
Yeah, he's probably gonna call me now and ask me the same thing. But anyway, um, my big thing here is just the fact of, um, I think what's made them strong is the way the Viltrumite DNA works is that they become the dominant gene, which is
Yeah.
why like they look so similar, even
Hmm.
though I don't think they're from the same planets. And obviously, when certain hybrids don't work properly, they kill them.
Hmm. Yep.
I mean,
Definitely.
they've said it.
Yeah. They wipe out the weakest links.
Correct. And then Mark got tanked by this girl like hard, and then Cecil's on the other end going, "Hey kid, just tell her you're gonna conquer this planet. Like I'm telling you to tell her to conquer this planet." And he's like, "No, I refuse." And he's like, "Kid, you are asking to get yourself killed."
I have to like that because I love that scene because he
Bluff,
called her bluff because it's like
100%.
she's like, if you don't do this I'm gonna kill you, and he's like, you need me. If you didn't need me, you would have killed me way before now.
Which I don't understand. Like the thing that kills me, it's like I don't know why they need him. Like the idea, I guess, would be to help everyone like join the Viltrumites, but I mean, like that's not something that Earth is gonna do.
I think
One
it's more along the lines of because they already started the process with Nolan. Nolan like he needed that half Viltrumite, half human to start the progress. So without Mark already there, they have to start over.
I also think too. I think they bring one person over there, and I think, as weird as it sounds, they don't just automatically conquer the planet.
Hmm.
I think they're supposed to test out the planet's genes,
Yeah.
which I think is even worse.
See if it's
Honestly,
suitable.
like,
Yeah.
no, I know, but I mean, like, I feel like I'd rather them come in there with the mindset of destroying the planet than going in there and being like, "Let's see how your creatures breed." And I'm just like, and automatically, like, that terrifies me more, in my opinion, than everything else. Like I'd rather like if they just came in and just wiped it out, I'd be like, that makes sense. The fact that
Yep.
they have one person come in to scout it out to see how their offsprings are, that is scarier.
Yep.
And obviously they like it enough because they haven't destroyed the planet because they'll destroy if they feel like the species are too weak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I mean,
clearly they don't
that
think
was their
that
mindset on the Bug Planet with Nolan. You know.
absolutely, but obviously they don't think that with humans because of how powerful Mark is.
Hmm.
So that's a whole nother thing. And that scene, I get Cecil like being like, kid, just say it. Like, don't lie to her. I don't care. Like, just take over the planet. We'll pretend at this point until we figure out a plan that wipe them out. And and the thing that kills me is just like, nope, I ain't doing it. And then he gets smacked around, and he's like, just kill me already. And he's like, stop wussing out. And then she doesn't, and she was like, leaves.
And now that's another that scene where Cecil comes in. He's like, "Dude, you got balls that you were able that you played that game."
Well, no, it
And
wasn't even. That's not the part that gets me. It's more of like he comes in and he says that, but he's like, those were just words. He's like, no, they're more than just words.
no, I know. But then like after like Cecil like smiled and
Oh no,
like
no, I agree with
cared.
you. Like Cecil was impressed. Like by no
Yeah.
means like Cecil was 100% impressed. It was just more the fact of like he really thought he was just burying the kid after this. Like
Oh yeah,
seriously,
no. But it's
he
like that's where I'm
he had a
getting at. Where
gravesite
it's
and
like
everything.
that's where another thing where I'm like, I feel like if Cecil wasn't a like this caring person, like he would have been ripping Mark a new one, go like telling him how stupid and how reckless and
Yeah, this was
whatever.
not it.
But in that, like, no, he like gave him a handshake. He cared about him, like take some rest, and like it's
But
like
then he
I'm
was like,
sorry, but you can't have personal days anymore.
I was like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, kid, but your free days are now obsolete. And the
Yep.
thing was, he literally said, "No, I get it," because I think it, especially because she almost killed Amber. he was quite literally like, you know what, I actually can't have a life.
Yep. And that obviously segues into what we hinted at last week, which you were convinced that it happened. They hinted at the breakup. This week it was an official breakup.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Although they never said the thing was they never said that they were broken up,
this
but
week or last week?
no, this week
No, she
it
said
was.
she can't do it.
No, no, I know, but that phrase was not there.
They
And
never
again,
said, okay, we're breaking up. But
no,
I
no,
mean,
and I'm not saying it to be a jerk on this. I'm saying it because I think we're going to see him try to like still be in her life.
definitely. I mean, they're going to be friends. And he's going to try to, he cares
Well,
about her. So
well,
he's going to try to look out for her.
mhm.
So I mean, it's going to be tough until until it's going to be Mark trying to prove that he can have both until Amber moves on
Okay.
herself.
Can we just bring up something that's very important here? There's only one episode left.
There is only one episode left.
So like we now because of this episode, we now know what the oh, there is one thing we forgot to mention. Rex decides to go back into the field.
Yep.
And
Against
apparently,
everybody's judgment.
yeah, and he learned that one of his augments now is very powerful. And
Yep.
he's very excited about it.
I like this new. I mean, again, he hasn't been around any girls, I guess, so we can't really see his douchebaggery to the full extent. But like, I like this new one where he's talking to Mark and he's being friendly. He's like, yeah, it was dumb, but I just
It's
need
the
to
brain
prove
damage.
myself. Brain damage. um, so,
Oh, focus on this. I saw it. Anyway, but no, I agree with you. He's kind of like at this point in time, he's kind of like being more of a human. That's the best way to say it. I mean, he's always human, but you understand what I'm saying, like an actual regular person, like actually caring about people. But
yeah,
also, we got to see his terror in this and how he's trying to like break out of his scariness. And then what kills me is hearing the creature speak. Really, just got him loose enough to be like, "Oh my god, this is hilarious! I really wish you would have talked sooner because I would
yeah,
have had no problem earlier."
yep, yep.
And that's what kills me. It's more the fact of like, I really am so glad you spoke.
Yeah, yeah, no, because he's like he was nervous, he was afraid, and then just
Mhm.
like he like just being able to pick on him like loosened him up.
Correct. And then he blew him up with this massive blast from his new wrist rocket.
Hmm.
It uses his energy to charge up. I don't know what it charges, to be honest with you, but it's got to charge something, and it causes a
Yeah.
huge explosion, and he loves it.
Um, he yeah no he that was a nice segue into what Rex is going through, and I mean like even more on the human side, like you said with after the fact that he pulled him away from a date with Amber, he's like the Guardians have your back. I will
Yeah.
make sure that we cover you so that way you can have your personal time. That I'm sorry that I ruined this for you.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the other thing too, speaking about the Guardians, Immortal wants to quit, and
but he's not allowed to.
although it sounds like Immortal quits without Cecil's permission anyway, because
Yep.
he's like, "Hey, Rudy, by the way, buddy, guess what? You're leader now. Woohoo!"
um, I'm
Um,
curious what the story is going to go with Immortal now. Like what the next step for him is.
as awful as it sounds, I think he needs to die again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that really helps because I mean, clearly he has all his past memories.
I think so. You're right, but I think it was one of those things where it's like, I think in his mind he'll think of it like a new life.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
And again, I don't know the Immortal well enough, but I'm
Yeah.
going with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
Um, I mean,
Makes
and then
sense.
we now know what the final episode is going to be about, because the episode ends with Mark getting a phone call from the interdimensional traveler.
And
Um,
it ended two ways.
yes. Sorry, but we know what the next episode is about because we know that the interdimensional traveler um, decides to basically hold Mark and I mean Mark's mother and brother hostage.
Debbie and Oliver.
Yep. And then the real episode ends with Alan the alien fighting the woman that beat up um, Mark like he was nothing, and Alan was beating her up like she was nothing.
That was I liked that because of the fact that you saw how what transformation Alan went through, like he it was just hilarious because he gets punched and he's like,
He's like,
oh, I
that didn't
expected
hurt
that to
nearly
hurt a
as
lot
bad
more
as
than
I
it
thought.
did.
Yeah. And then he punches her and she's like, she's bleeding. He goes, oh, this is nice. Like, are you going to actually hit me or what? And then she
Eh,
starts to say that she was going to take him back to the base and
they'll
uh,
experiment on him because like
no,
no
no, no.
cut him up.
Yeah, yeah, like slice him up and study him. And
Yeah,
that's when he gets knocked out. And we see that he's awake, but she's bringing him in because he wants to know where they are because now he feels confident he can take out some Viltrumites, which
yep,
I think he can at least, at the very least, even if he can't beat them all, I think he'll be strong enough to knock him away and then escape.
yeah. It's definitely going to be that's going to be a nice twist. I feel like he's going to like you said he's going
You
to
know?
knock some out. I think he's going to break out with Nolan
Possibly, yeah.
because I remember seeing something that the head writer said of the show said that season 3 will feature more of Nolan.
Yeah, which does make sense. But yeah,
So
I mean, so that's how those that and I say 2 episodes, but realistically, the 2 endings were. So I'm very curious on how the series, the season is going to end because I'm very curious on that front. But overall, I mean, this was a great episode in my opinion.
and just so we know, because I also always forget, I believe the multi-dimensional traveler's name is Angstrom Levy.
Okay,
I think, but I'm not 100%.
that's fine. I'm
Um,
not going to argue with you. I'm fine with that. Um, anything else you want to say about this episode?
no, no, it was honestly it was a good episode. I was seeing reviews from like the like the big reviewers like GameSpot or
Yeah,
IGN or something
they
was like,
ranked
oh,
it low.
this what.
They ranked it low. I'm
Yeah, they
assuming.
were like it was like a 5 or a 6, and they were like, "Oh, episode was a mess. None of the things coincide." I'm like, "What are you talking about? This was a great flow."
I
Um,
thought it was.
yeah, I mean, everything made sense. One thing led to another. It's not like it. I mean, the only random thing was the ending, which was hinting at the next episode. So I'm like,
And it really
I
wasn't that much of a surprise because he goes back to a universe and says, I'm home," and we assume it's there. So it's like
yeah,
it shouldn't be all that surprising.
yeah. And then obviously they hinted, which is a post-credit scene for Alan the Alien. So it's like I don't understand why it didn't flow.
No, I agree
To
with you.
me,
I think it was fine.
yeah,
Looking forward to the season finale after we waited 17 months, 13 years, and 46 hours. Um,
you're not wrong.
Mike doesn't like it, but I'm not wrong. But anyway, so let's move on to your character spotlight, Mike, and make it a good one. I want to be entertained.
You want to be
Entertain.
entertained.
All right, put it
I
this
don't
way.
know how
I'll even
entertained you're going to
focus.
be.
How about that? I'll even listen and focus with you.
You'll be focused. I don't believe that.
You know
Anyways,
what? I'm putting my phone upside down now.
call Scott. Okay, so this week, as I said in the last podcast, I couldn't get a holiday themed character. The 2 characters for
I'm out.
Easter
Why am I here?
do
I already
not
going there.
exist in the DC universe. Actually, Easter Bunny does for one very scene. There is technically Jesus Christ, but it's literally the same story. So I'm like, I don't want to do this. So I decided to go back and say, what's a character that can kind of tie into the Penguin show that we watched? So
Mhm.
I went all the way back to all the way back to the origins. So I want to talk about a very well-known family in the DC world, particularly the Batman universe.
Falcone.
No. I'm going to talk about the Arkhams.
Ooh, okay. I'm interested.
The Arkhams are a long-standing and once rich and influential Gotham City family who were involved in the founding of the village that would go on to become the city of Gotham. They have been dogged by tragedy ever since arriving in the New World back in the 1600s. Um, and in the 19th century, one family member, just it's going to be a future talk about. Just I just want to give like a rough idea of what timeline we're looking at. But in the 19th century, the family member Amadeus Arkham founded
Amadeus.
Arkham Asylum. Huh?
Amadeus.
Amadeus? That's how you say it?
I believe so, yeah, because I remember from the Arkham games, I think it's Amadeus.
Amadeus. Okay.
Amadeus, Amadeus. Amadeus, Amadeus.
So he founded Arkham. But the character that I want to talk about briefly today, her name is Amity Arkham.
Okay. I don't like the
Amity,
alliteration, man. The alliteration friggin' kills me.
it is kind of tough. Amity Arkham was a witch who was burned to death for her practice of magic in colonial New Jersey. She was persecuted by other colonials, including Edmund Edmund Cobblepot, Rowland Winfried, and Elizabeth, Robert Herney, and Isabel Dent. As she
Having
died,
trouble over
she
there?
huh?
Having trouble over there?
There are so many names, dude. Like, she was so like as you saw, there were a lot of couple of names that were recognizable,
Yeah,
like
Cobblepot and then Dent,
and Dent. So like they were back clearly all the way back to the beginnings, and
which we've known already.
which
Dent,
we
I'm not
know.
100% sure we knew, but Cobblepot for sure.
Cobblepot, yes, he's one of the original families,
Hmm.
and clearly Dent is too. As she died, she cast a curse which enabled her to possess her descendants and killed the descendants of those responsible for her death, and any who opposed her or otherwise drew her eerie. The families she targeted included the Cobblebots, the Hills, the Dents, the Beaumonts, Canes, Lestranges, the Kyles,
Hmm.
Grisms, and the Waynes.
I'm interested in the Kyles. I didn't realize Kyles was back that far, but anyway, continue.
Yeah, me neither. That's a new one. Her only child, an infant named Beatrix, was taken to be raised in safety far from her mother's killers by Amity's closest friend, Eleanor French. After safely delivering Beatrix to her foster family, French wrote the Book of Old Gotham, which primarily detailed Amity's life and murder while describing colonial Gotham. Amity's remains were moved long after her death by Absalom Lydecker into Millie Jane Cobblepot's false grave on what would later become the grounds of Gotham Academy. After this happened after Millie Cobblepot faked her own suicide to escape the Cobblepot family.
Hmm.
Amity Arkham eventually possessed her descendant, Gotham Academy student Olive Silverlock, with the assistance of Amanda Lydecker, Wendy Lawford, and Reiner Hardwick, who used a ritual to help bind her to Olive. Olive was able to get free of the possession through her own horror at Amity's action, and with the aid of her friends, um, who I'm going to attempt to pronounce, with the help of Pomeline French, Colton Rivera, Kyle Mizuguchi, and Maps Mizoguchi.
I needed that. I needed that. This is like Pokemon. Is this how you feel when I say Pokemon names? Because I love.
Listen, it's here's the difference. You don't know how to pronounce these names either.
I don't, but I'm also not trying, so it's fun.
So, Amity's abilities. Uh, She has magic abilities. She has pyrokinesis,
Hmm. I
and
know what that
she,
is.
huh?
I said, I know what that is.
I'm proud of you. And then she also has ghostly psychology. She can possess. She is intangible. She's intangible. She is invisible, and she has the ability to. She has metamorphosis. Um, the only weakness that she has is that she can be summoned and partially controlled um, in her incarnation, or whoever she's possessing. As long as that person has the Book of the Old Gotham, they basically have partial control over
Okay.
her. And this is actually a relatively new character. Um, she made her appearance in the main universe of modern DC. Like this main universe started in 2011. Her first appearance came in Gotham Academy number 8 in September 2015,
Okay.
and she died Gotham Academy second semester number 8, June 2017. So she's made a handful of appearances, and her run lasted 2 years.
Wow.
She's on the and she's part of Prime Earth, and her affiliation is technically bad. She's
I
but
mean, it makes sense.
um, I'll be honest. Like I was trying to look for characters to relate to the Penguin because we saw the Penguin trailer last week,
And
and
there's
I was
not
like, you know
much.
what? There's not that much, and I'm like looking at Penguin's descendants, and like we have his son, but like there's only a handful of things to talk about him,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I need a little bit more. So I'm like,
Yeah, I agree
you
with
know
you,
what?
and I think that was perfect in the sense of like you're not gonna get there's certain characters like they don't have as much like they're known, but then their people around them are not that well known.
Yeah.
So like Penguin's one of them, and I'm not surprised on that either. Just like with
Mm-hmm.
Madam Web, like she's got a grandkid, but ask me what her kids' names are. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
No. Yeah.
it's one of those things where it just doesn't make any sense. Very good, Mike. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Did I redeem myself from 2 weeks ago?
No. Actually, you entertain you. Put it this way: you kept my focus a lot more, mostly because you kept messing up names.
Because the
So,
names.
so in next week's episode, we are done with X Men the animated series. Finally,
Finally,
um, although this one wasn't too bad; it was only 10 episodes. But
I want to point out. I forgot to mention this before when we were talking about X-Men. Um, there are talks about, depending on how well X-Men '97 go, they will revitalize old animated shows, and the
no,
main one they're talking about is the Spider-Man animated show.
so the only one that so this is how I took it, and there's a reason why I'm saying it this way: that they're looking at because of if this continues to be a success, they're going to add more seasons to Spider Man the animated series, and then they'll explore the animated universe in X Men.
Yeah.
So like Spider-Man is the only one that is being looked at as a different show, but
Hmm.
there might be other characters from the universe to come pop in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
And also, something else to talk about. I sent this to you last night. Um, we had a major star pass
oh
yesterday.
yes, from Gen V.
Gen
Um
V.
he played what's his character's name?
He was the son, which had the same exact
Polaris.
ability. Polaris. Which his name is Chance Perdomo.
Sounds
Um,
he died at 27. Damn.
27 in a motorcycle accident, and they have officially come out and said that Gen V was supposed to start filming. Season 2 was supposed to start filming next month, April.
Yeah, but they have to change it for
But
obvious reasons.
because of the passing, they are halting filming indefinitely. We don't know when they're going to start again. Obviously,
They have
you
to
know
rework the script for obvious reasons.
they have to rework the script. We have no idea what's going to happen. I'm sure that.
Because it was supposed to take place right after uh, season one,
Yep.
in when they're in that little room and he was there, so I don't know what they're going to do on that piece, so I'll
Yeah.
be curious to see what happens there. They might have to, obviously they're going to have to change it for obvious reasons, but not because the writers stink. It's just because unfortunately life happened.
Yep, and we're it's unfortunate that this happened. I feel bad for everyone involved. I'm sure the cast and his family are devastated.
No,
Um,
100%. I mean, that goes without saying in the sense of like there's a lot of heartbreak in general,
yep.
and I think they're doing a great job in the sense of like even though they might be doing it not necessarily for the right reasons, but it's probably good that they take a break, just because of the passing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, for obvious reasons, and they probably have to do negotiations and stuff like that because they might not want to kill him off screen. They might want to do like a farewell thing for him too, but they have to get
Yeah.
permission from the family and everything else. So I'm kind of hoping that that's kind of what we get out of all this is
Hmm.
like some sort of actual closure for him, even though obviously that it was not the most ideal. But
Yeah.
anyway, next week we're going to be talking about the latest episode of the latest two episodes of the Bad Batch. We're going to be talking about the latest episode of X-Men '97 and the season finale of Invincible season 2.
And we will end it with your character spotlight.
Yes, yes, we will. So, as always, guys, if you made it this far, we really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Other than that, this is going to be Scott and Mike signing out of the Black Eel podcast. Have a wonderful day.